In the second month of the zombie rampage, I hid in the dormitory with my best friend, planning how to escape to the safe zone. She gobbled up the canned lunch meat I saved, lazily suggesting, "Don't you have a Land Rover car? Wait for Zach to scavenge all the food in the school, and then ask him to drive us away." Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. My stomach growled with hunger, and just as I was about to advise her to save some food for the road, I saw Tessa opening another bottle of mineral water. After washing her face, she stretched lazily, feeling comfortable. "Let's be thrifty, we only have 2 bottles of water left." Tessa smirked. "Zach said I could use it. Frida, you wouldn't mind, would you?" She pronounced Zach's name in a light and ambiguous manner. Sometimes it makes me feel confused, thinking that Zach was her fiance, not mine. I scrutinized Tessa. Only then did I realize that despite hiding in the dormitory for a month, Tessa still had rosy cheeks, and her body seemed more plump. It was as if she had been nourished by love. My heart skipped a beat. No, it's impossible. Just as I was about to ask for clarification, I heard a commotion of footsteps outside. Zach's loud shout came. "Run, the zombies are coming." Following the footsteps, there was the eerie sound of zombies. Probably Zach went outside to find food, but accidentally attracted the zombies. I quickly got up and called Tessa to escape outside together. In the chaos, Zach rushed into the dormitory, his tall figure looking very reliable. I was about to call out to him when I saw him pull Tessa into his arms and rush out. "Zach!" I couldn't believe it, calling out to him. Facing 3 or 4 zombies, his eyes wavered. He wanted to come help me, but was tightly held by Tessa in his arms. "Let's go, Zach. I'm so scared." After hesitating for a moment, Zach drove the Land Rover car. He crushed a group of zombies and left. I was left behind. Zach had really betrayed me. I numbly watched the exhaust fumes behind the car, my heart beating heavily, tears uncontrollably rushing out. I held the controlled knife I got from the dormitory and chopped off the zombies' heads, but they were so densely packed that they could trample me to death. There was no way to escape. Just as I was about to knock myself out with a stick to end the pain, a tall and thin figure stood in front of me. He swiftly beheaded the zombies with a knife. His face was calm, his movements clean and neat. "Mr. Professor?" I looked at him in astonishment. He was my mentor. At the age of 28, he is already a PhD graduate from Forbes dual degree and works as a professor at the university. I have only been assigned to him for 1 year and have not spoken to him. He couldn't have come here to find me, could he? I glanced back into the dormitory corridor. "Who are you looking for?" "You." As if a heavy hammer had fallen in my heart, making me anxious and flustered. Alberto Noah walked towards me step by step. As he passed by, he lowered his head, his warm breath brushing against my ear. The large patches of dark blood soaked through his white suit, accentuating his pale and handsome face with a hint of allure. He casually unbuttoned his suit, revealing his thin yet powerful 8-pack abs. I couldn't help but fantasize. I couldn't take my eyes off Alberto Noah's beautiful abs, swallowing hard. "There are many zombies outside. Let's escape first." But unexpectedly, he just changed his clothes. Wiping the blood off his face, he glanced at me, his eyes filled with emotions that seemed impossible to conceal. "You stick close to me later. Let's go to the supermarket first." Mesmerized by Alberto Noah's deep voice, I instinctively grabbed his sleeve and followed him into the nearby small supermarket. Surviving teachers and students crowded the supermarket. I scanned around and my gaze landed in a corner. Tessa Kilmer was lying in Zach Minoso's arms, looking boneless and flaunting silently. I clenched my fists, walking towards them angrily. "When did you start?" Zach Minoso's gaze flickered, unable to meet mine. Instead, Tessa Kilmer spoke openly. "Last year when you were busy with your thesis, Zach often came to have meals with me. One time he got drunk. Getting drunk doesn't lead to physical reactions." I couldn't help but chuckle in anger, turning to Zach Minoso. "Don't you dare to admit it?" As the eyes around us gathered, Zach Minoso gritted his teeth. "You are at fault too. If you hadn't refused to be intimate with me before marriage, I wouldn't have strayed." He carefully shielded Tessa Kilmer behind him. "Now that things have happened, you should stop asking who is at fault. Don't go too far." Am I going too far? Is your betrayal not going too far? Unable to contain my emotions any longer, I slapped Zach Minoso's face hard. But all I could think of were our past memories, how he confessed to me cautiously and held my hands with such sincerity. Zach Minoso was scolded by me in front of everyone. He felt humiliated, so he rushed over and tore my shirt open. "All right, won't you shut up? I want to see if you're truly a chaste woman," exposing a large area of my fair skin, inviting countless lecherous gazes. I desperately wrapped my clothes tightly, tears streaming down my face. Disgustingly, Zach Minoso started making indecent remarks, intending to humiliate me publicly. I suddenly remembered that when I graduated from college, he took the postgraduate entrance examination materials. He said that I would teach you mathematics in the future and help you prepare postgraduate entrance examination. The young man under the sunlight, with a clean smile and sincere eyes. But now, bang! Zach Minoso was thrown over the shoulder and fell onto the supermarket glass door, blood flowing down from his forehead. His face was dark and fierce, showing none of the former clarity and cleanliness. Alberto Noah's gaze was sharp like a knife, coldly landing on Zach Minoso's face. Frida's parents are on the school board. You were trying to please her back then just to have her parents pull strings for you, weren't you? Otherwise, with your 80-point math score, could you have gone to graduate school? Her parents passed away, and you started to bully her. Who gave you the courage? Zach Minoso's eyes trembled violently, almost going crazy with anger. Alberto Noah warned him. Our Noah family and her family are old friends. If you want to bully her, you better think twice. His eyes fell on me, softer, as he reached out with well-defined hands. Don't be afraid. After he pulled me up, I stared blankly and asked him, are our parents friends? Yes, I'm 6 years older than you. So in elementary school, I was the one doing your math homework. But later, I went abroad, and when I came back, you were already engaged. My emotions surged, and suddenly, I understood all the doubts from the past. Looking up at him, I gazed at him seriously. So, the mango gummy bears I love the most, custom made from abroad every year, were not bought by Zach Minoso, but Alberto Noah nodded. I bought them. Those neat notes? I organized them and sent them back to the country. And the love letters. I blushed. He lowered his head to look at me, his expression serious. I wrote them too. I initially fell for Zach Minoso because of 100 love letters. But now, none of this was done by Zach Minoso. He was a villain who took credit for everything. If it weren't for the apocalypse, I might have been fooled by him for a lifetime, letting him toy with me. I crashed into Alberto's eyes, as if colliding with a gentle evening star. My heart was completely in chaos. Alberto touched my soft hair, pulling me to sit in the corner. We'll talk about it in detail later. The first priority now is to escape. Wait until midnight, when everyone is asleep, and you follow me closely. Late at night, we sprinted to the corner of the supermarket outside, where crossing over would lead to safety, but 8 people followed us. The commotion alerted the zombies. I quickly sat on the wall, trying to pull Alberto. Suddenly, someone pushed me from behind. I fell from the wall, landing among the group of zombies. My ears were buzzing with the ferocious screams of zombies and the heart-rending shouts of Alberto. A pair of large hands snatched me from the zombie group, holding me close. You have to be wary of Tessa Kilmer. I nodded, stood up in pain, wanting to pull him over the wall to escape, but Alberto gave me a sorrowful smile. I've been scratched by a zombie. I don't have long to live anymore. You need to run. No, listen to me, Frida. He lifted me up and threw me over the wall with force. In the last glance, I saw him being overwhelmed by zombies, his white suit stained red with blood. I was so upset that I went crazy. I turned around, barely supported myself, and slapped Tessa Kilmer in the face hardly. Half of Tessa's face was swollen from my slap. She gave me a hard look, but when she saw Zach Minoso coming over, she flattened her mouth. Frida, I didn't mean to. It's all my fault for being too clumsy. I'm sorry. Zach's face turned green. Alberto Noah is dead. Do you still want to seek justice for him? He's dead. Do we all have to die too? Turning around, he said to Tessa with a complicated expression. Don't play tricks in the future. There are only 9 of us left. We have to rely on each other. Clearly, when Tessa pushed me down, Zach saw it too. I glared at him hatefully. If I have the chance, I will make sure both him and Tessa taste what it's like to be torn apart by zombies. I left with a stern face, but as I walked out of the jungle, I encountered hundreds of zombies. They seemed to smell the blood on us and rushed towards us like crazy. Some people in the group were scared and kept screaming. At a critical moment, Tessa made a suggestion. One of us has to go out to distract these zombies. A one-way trip. No one agreed. Tessa smirked, turned to me, and said, Frida has no relatives in our group. Let her go. Besides, she has a knife, which can protect her better than us. I looked at her coldly and took out the knife given to me by Alberto. Tessa looked at the cold light on the knife, took a step back shyly, and hid behind Zach. Zach suddenly hit my shoulder with a karate chop, disarmed me, and tied me up. Frida, don't hate us. In this situation, we all have no choice. With a strong force, he threw me into the group of zombies. The night was cold, with ghostly shadows, and zombies surrounded me layer by layer. They all opened their mouths wide in unison. Zach and the others took the opportunity to run away and soon disappeared at the end of the jungle. I closed my eyes, waiting for the painful bite to come, but there was no movement for a long time. I opened my eyes and saw the tide of zombies receding to the side, they all kneeling on the ground trembling, as if they were afraid of something extraordinary. Frida, don't be afraid. A man's hoarse and deep voice. My heart was pounding wildly. I looked up and saw a pale, handsome face. His pupils were tinged with red, making him look even more enchanting. I covered my mouth, tears almost burning my hand. Alberto? Yuri still alive? Why did you come so late? Trembling, I threw myself into his arms, tightly holding his waist, feeling an unprecedented sense of security. His skin was icy cold, without a hint of warmth. I felt even sadder, hiccuping as I cried. Are you hungry? Shall I let you take a bite? He sighed, his teeth biting into my shoulder. Aren't you afraid of the zombie virus? I'm not afraid. I want to be with you. Because of him, I found the courage. His hand slowly stroked my face from the back of my neck and sighed. Okay, but Frida, promise me that once you agree to follow me, you can't go back on your word. Of course. After he tasted some blood, I felt weak and sleepy and fell asleep quickly. I think I'm going to turn into a zombie too, right? That would would be great. I can be with Alberto and not let him bear the burden of being different alone. Opening my eyes, I found myself in a villa. There were supplies all around me, from compressed biscuits, instant noodles, canned luncheon meat to frozen meat and fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator next to the kitchen. There were also many guns and bullets on the coffee table. Yuri awake. Alberto came over with lean pork congee with preserved eggs, sat on the edge of the bed, and wanted to feed me. Haven't you turned into a zombie? He said. I am a zombie, but I have strong mental power. I can control all the nearby zombies, and even speak. I bit you, but you won't turn into a zombie. Letting out a long sigh, he rubbed his forehead. However, I find myself starting to crave blood. I blinked, unable to believe it. In the south, there have been rumors of a zombie king who can control all low-level zombies. But in the north, there hasn't been one. I didn't expect Alberto now become. I looked around. What about these supplies? He said. These were prepared at the beginning of the apocalypse. I couldn't speak, tears streaming down my face. If he stayed in the villa without going out, it would be relatively safe here with food and drink. He could live much better than us, but he chose to return to the laboratory. Was it for me? Having an answer in my heart, I couldn't help but wrap my arms around his neck and whispered softly, I have missed out on something until now, but luckily, there is still time for everything. He gently stroked my hair. After a while, I calmed down and sat in his lap. Alberto, to be honest, I like you. He held me in his arms, his eyes burning with passion, his voice filled with desire. Frida, don't be silly, don't move around. His abdomen tightened, his hand sliding from my waist to the hem of my skirt. I want to drink blood, the blood from that place. Leaning down, he bit into it. Alberto, be gentle. I trembled all over, melting in his arms.